And this is the phrase that I want you guys to start using. The government launders censorship.
He could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think, and that is our job.
The FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, "Hey, just so you know, like, you should be on high alert."
We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook.
The Department of Homeland Security is creating a disinformation governance board to discuss strategies for reducing the spread of so-called misinformation. It is not the U.S. government's responsibility to decide what is and what is not misinformation. Moreover, the federal government has shown itself not particularly adept at identifying misinformation. Government-supported efforts to suppress the COVID-19 lab leak theory and the Hunter Biden laptop story have proven to be disastrously misguided.
We have a lot of information to share. In the early phase,
there is nothing wrong with your screen. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling the messaging in this transmission. We will tell you the topics you may speak about. We will remove any speech we deem unfit. We will identify and protect you from all that is evil. You need only put your full trust in us. We are the government, and we are here to help.
All right, everyone. How are you today? Thank you for joining me once again. I jumped on today, and I did this kind of last minute, but I see we got a decent audience across platforms, so I do appreciate your jumping on. If you're wondering why that video cut off where it did, well, it did that because it's not approved by your favorite social media networks. You can check out that video in its entirety on our Rumble channel. All right. And that kind of brings me to the next point that I wanted to make was, if you've been following us, if you've been joining our live discussions, if you've been engaged, if you're enjoying the content as far as the Great Reset information, Article 5 information, we're always on Article 5 information. If you're into the content, I'm going to ask you, if you're watching this right now, whether this is live or later on recorded, to try and head over to our Rumble channel and subscribe to our Rumble channel. The reason I say this is because for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you had no idea that we had gotten banned for a week, and the reasoning is insane, and I'll go into that in a minute. But the fact of the matter is, they just turned around on a video that was made 17 weeks ago, that was published 17 weeks ago. They just turned around and struck us and took us down for 7 days without notice. I had a video that was scheduled to play the next day on the last Monday, and that video just went private. They left the scheduling up there, so people were trying to watch it and just couldn't, and were like messaging me like crazy, like, why are you making your videos private? Well, we didn't make them private. YouTube did. So in essence, I want to just explain that. And should you see something like that happen again in the future, this is why I'm asking you to subscribe to the Rumble channel. All right. Even if you're going to go ahead and in the future watch, the majority of our content on Facebook or Twitch or YouTube, at least know that when you see us disappear, chances are we didn't disappear, that we were made to disappear. And that's significant, right? And for that reason, I am asking everyone with a thumb to go and click on your phones and start clicking that Rumble link and get subscribed to our channel there. It's www.rumble.com/C/Patriot Think Tank, not the Patriot Think Tank. It's just Patriot Think Tank at the last slash. So rumble.com/C/Patriot Think Tank. And that will allow you to subscribe to the Rumble channel. We already have organically, because we've always had the Rumble channel up. It's not like we just started it now, and we've been mirroring pretty much everything we put to YouTube on Rumble anyway. But in the end, like I said, if you see that we've just disappeared, or you try to click onto something and it looks like it's private, or it doesn't make sense, or it seems like we're trolling you, we're not. it's more than likely that some content that we put out there got flagged by YouTube, and we had to, without being able to communicate with our subscriber base, we had to just deal and work around it. So we still went live last week on Wednesday, which was fine. We went live to Twitch, Rumble, and Facebook. But again, and here's the thing, right? So I spent the week pissed off about this whole thing. And what did I do? So what does someone like me do when something like this happens and someone's trying to silence what I'm saying? Well, I speak louder. So I went ahead and put together that video, the teaser of which I put in the beginning of this, and I cut it off before it got into the COVID-19 portion so that we don't have to deal with Facebook's fact liberators, if you will. But in the end, I wanted to just give you that teaser, and you can find that video on Rumble. And I tried to upload it to Facebook, and Facebook would simply not. They were telling me it's a violation of their COVID-19. Like, I thought we were past all that stuff. I thought people understood that a lot of this stuff was behind us, but I guess it's not, and they're going to continue on with this forever, and it just pissed me off. So I put it out there and I tried to repost it, but and I even posted this to our Facebook page. It was like 10 times negative distribution. And you guys don't see what I put in the screenshot there in that post, but it was negative 10 times distribution score for trying to post that organically. And it's just nonsense. And basically all that was in that video, all right, and I don't want to get too deep into it because then they'll be like, oh, well, you talked about it and now you're gone again. But I do want people to get that. I want people to see the inside of this game. I want people to see, what goes on from the creator side and how cryptic these people are about their bans and their suspensions and how vague their rules are, and how I'm 100% convinced that this is not just them. Okay, I don't think Google gives a crap that we had a live discussion on 2000 Mules. Like, I don't think that they care. That's what we got dinged for, by the way, was a live discussion we had on 2000 Mules. A discussion that is still up and running on Facebook and is still up and running on Rumble. So if you want to see it, to see how passive that conversation really was, that it still triggered some 20-year-old doo-doo to go ahead and whack our channel for a week. All right, it's crazy that this kind of stuff happens, but yet, lo and behold, here we are. And I sit here and I sit here and I kind of baffle at the fact that it even can be allowed. But of course, we all know that this is private companies, and so that's the horse that they ride, is that this is a private company, and that you can't stop a private company, and they're right. However, what I'm accusing, okay, and if you're not familiar with Dr. Shiva's case, and I put clips from Dr. Shiva's case in that video as well, where it starts off with him actually saying, I want you to remember this phrase, government launders censorship. And he's absolutely right when he says that. And what he discovered in his lawsuit was a direct connection between social media and government. And that was Twitter. Okay. And he went and found these playbooks, which you all can find. And in the video, I give the link right on the screen during the video as to where you can go to read those playbooks. But they actually, in the state of Massachusetts, had these playbooks written out where they were basically explaining to their employees of these election boards how to notify Twitter, that they had like a secret portal, like a special portal to reach out to Twitter directly so that they could shut down people they want to shut down. And because he was the one shut down, and this is a dude with 4 MIT degrees, he invented email. Like, this guy was no joke. And he turned around, even though no lawyer would represent him, he went out and fought this fight. And because he was on his own and didn't have any real legal representation, eventually they got him. But they didn't get him on merits. They got him on technicalities. And the fact that, and that's where the judge was even telling him, like, you need to get yourself a constitutional lawyer. And he couldn't, because no one would defend him. And so it is what it is. But when you read the case, and I've read the entire case, and you read those playbooks, all right, they have these information influencers or influencer. I forget what the name of it is, but they basically are saying, people like him who had a large following on Twitter and were influencers, all right, how to deal with those people. That's what the instructional manual was. And one of the things that would get you flagged, and it was literally in a bullet point. Again, I put that into that video. You can catch it on Rumble. And in the bullet points of their own playbook, okay, it says, it lists off the things that people could be guilty of to become like an influencer that needs to be dealt with, quote unquote, right? One of those things was people who believe that election officials are corrupt. Like, if you believe that election officials are corrupt, then you're someone that the government needs to be watching. All right. So this is where, so like my take on this entire experience is not even so much that I'm angry at Google or angry at Facebook or whatever. My take on this situation is that I'm angry at government. And I'm angry at government because, for the same reason we're all angry at government, but I'm angry at government here because this is a First Amendment violation. The second they get involved, it's a First Amendment violation. It's one thing for if Google really gave a damn that we had an open talk about 2,000 mules, all right, and all throughout it, and I even took clips of it and put it into that video that we just produced. The discussion was all level-headed, level-minded. It was all clear. It was all saying, look, the documentary by itself is not enough. That needs to go to the authorities. The authorities now can investigate. Then we talked about the authorities investigating. Never once did we start to insinuate that documentary absolutely was. Now, I did say, in my opinion, and I clearly stated it was my opinion, that it seemed pretty damn shady and that they looked pretty guilty. But I also said right after that, I wouldn't take this documentary into a court of law. I would take it into the sheriff's office. And that's the significant play there. But what they're saying, what YouTube is saying, is that's not even fair. You can't even have that opinion. All right. And whatever. I don't even want to get into it. I don't want to talk about that all day because that's in the past now. It's, they did some investigations in Yuma County. Things are going on. It is what it is. We'll let that play run its course. My point to be made here is just trying to have honest discourse on real-time news that's happening in the world is now being regulated. And my firm belief is that it's being regulated by government. My firm belief is that the creepazoids that were going to be on this disinformation governance board, are the ones who reach out and say, hey, anything about the election being a fraud, matter of fact, any fraudulent election ever, anywhere, you knock them off. And they went back and rescrubbed all their videos, and they found mine. And we probably got past their radar on the first run because we were jokingly, but now it seems like strategically, but we were jokingly being elusive about the title and saying, guess which documentary we're talking about. And there was a big mule on the front. And I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, all right, how do we prove this, right? How do we? I mean, Dr. Shiva, I think, was the closest one that I've seen. And I encourage all of you, go watch that video on Rumble, write down the website that's there. It's Shiva's website. And right there, he's got all the playbooks that he found that he presented to the judge right there in front of you. And they're not 100-page reads. They're like pamphlets. All right. And you just read through them and you just smell Orwellian all over it. You smell Orwellian all over it. All right. And like Twitter was the co-author of two of those playbooks, or a co-contributor to two of those playbooks. All right. Twitter Legal. Like they're literally just sitting down and scheming on ways that they could subvert the First Amendment through this argument that they're private companies. And as long as they can keep the federal government hidden, they'll get away with it. As long as they can keep the federal government's play in this hidden, they'll get away with it. Like if the world needs whistleblowers, that's the reality right now. The world needs whistleblowers because between the media and the social media and big tech and all, this is all like the government has gotten ahead of all of this. And with the exception of one time, I remember Apple saying, no, we're not going to give you our encryption keys to get into phones, because it was, they didn't have to, and they chose not to. I think eventually they gave in as well. Like this idea that the federal government is so far beyond its reach, that, in many ways, some might say it's unsavable. But of course, it is savable, right? It is savable. Because reeling in the federal government, now whether or not this particular issue will fall into, because there would be evidence needed and things. So whether this particular issue falls into the scope of the three topics of the current Convention of States movement, which are term limits, government overreach, and fiscal restraints, you could argue maybe government overreach, but let's just assume it doesn't fit anywhere in here. All right. Here's how Convention of States makes a change to this. All right. And I've talked about this plenty of times. And what it does, okay, whatever gets ratified at a convention, doesn't matter. Once the process gets done, okay, once we've called a convention successfully and we've proposed amendments and the states can ratify what they want to ratify and they won't what they won't, that'll depend on us, right? What gets ratified and what doesn't. How much pressure we're putting on as the grassroots. But this army, this grassroots army that is being formed, this grassroots, political militia, if you will, that is being brought to bear, is not going away. And once that convention is called, held, and utilized, once that's complete, a precedent has been set. And from that day on, the federal government will forever be looking over its shoulder at what the people are doing, what the people are saying. They don't do that now. You think that they care about your vote. They don't care about your vote. They don't care about your vote. Okay? They've got this system dialed in. Okay? They know, Republicans know they're going to win Texas. California, they know are going to go to Democrats. New York to Democrats, et cetera, down the line. They know everywhere where everybody's going. All right. And if you haven't seen that they can be incredibly creative in how they can go about ensuring victories in certain states, all right, the money flows. They've got this system down to a T. All right. The idea that we're going to elect our way out of this is insane. So let's say Donald Trump wins in 2024. What do you think he's going to do? Seriously, stop and think about that. If you're one of those people who are just, we're going to get Trump in, and then what? Because I'm going to vote for him too, if he's the one running. All right. But in the end, what does that mean? What is that going to equate to? Is he going to put fiscal restraints on the federal government? Is that going to happen? Is any president that could get elected going to do that? Maybe Reagan was your guy. He wouldn't do it either. All right. It doesn't matter who gets elected into the presidency. None of these people have the power or authority to do the job that we, the people, are supposed to be doing. And the fact that we don't even know we have this power is insulting. We should all be embarrassed. I was when I first learned it, and you should if you didn't know it. Like, if you're just learning now that Article 5 is what it is, and you haven't gotten past the crazy people with the runaway convention nonsense and all that, if you're still dangling on all that, then you should be embarrassed. I was embarrassed, and you should be as well. But that doesn't mean that you don't know it now. That doesn't mean that you don't know that we have this power now. That doesn't mean that when it comes time that you can't get off your keister right now and start putting an end to this. Because we can. Okay, we can. And it's ridiculous to me that people don't take this more serious than it is. It's like we're going to sit back and we're just going to watch and we're just going to keep playing defense and they're going to keep throwing up some crazy bill in Congress and we're all going to get mad and I can't believe they try to do this. This is not the way this country's supposed to be run. We're going to stop them. Yeah, we're not letting that happen. And then, it either happens or it doesn't. But the bottom line is it did not happen because you got pissed. Okay? That's not why whatever the situation is didn't happen. All right? And the reality of the matter is, if we think that we're going to, how many people, look at the Tea Party, right? Meckler told this story, who Meckler was a co-founder of the Tea Party, and he tells the story often about how excited they were to get all these candidates in that they were sure were good people and were on the right mission. And you know what? I believe him. I'm sure that those people were good people and were on the right mission. But you know what? It wasn't but a few months before they got sucked into the machine and became useless. All right. And what that tells you is that the system is inherently, the federal government system is inherently broken. It's structurally damaged. It cannot be repaired by the people who broke it. It's just not going to happen. If we want to live trust me when I tell you, if the government is removed from the scenario, suddenly and magically, everything will be okay to say online again. I guarantee you that this is the case. And it's not that I feel bad for these CEOs. I understand, though. I understand the position. I understand what would you do? What do you do when the FBI shows up at your office and starts hitting you up with, you're going to need to make sure this doesn't make it on, that this information here is about to come out. You need to make sure it doesn't go viral. You need to make sure this and that. Like, what do? You could fight. You can say, no way am I going to let that happen. I'm a CEO of this company, not you. This is free speech. I'm gonna let it go. Okay. Well, now all of a sudden you start getting letters, you start getting phone calls from different senators, different politicians, talking about bills that are being drawn up that are going to severely devastate your institution, your business on your watch. Now what do? You can avoid it all if you just eliminate this particular story. Just don't let this story go viral. In Facebook's case, they still let you share it. They let you pretend that you can still do something. It's just when you share it, like that person that shares it, no one in their feed sees the post that they shared. I've tested this with my own personal feed, which I rarely use anymore. But in the end, I've done this with my own personal feed. We got to a point where I would post, like if I post something generic or silly or a joke, which is pretty much all I post to my personal feed now. But like if I post a joke, then I get all kinds of reactions. Everybody's laughing, whatever, we're all into it. If I post something from the channel, zero. Even people that adamantly follow the channel don't see it. Nobody sees it. That's not organic. That's not, like I get it. A lot of people I don't expect to get the same reaction to a political post that I would to a funny post. But at the same time, if I know that I've got 15 people in my regular friends list that watch the show regularly and are clicking on our page regularly, that only tells me that they should see something that I post to my regular feed that involves the channel, but they don't. Okay. And so this shadow banning, all of this stuff, again, my point is that this is all government driven. And the key now is to prove this. The key now is to demonstrate, and Dr. Shiva came close. He came closer than anybody I've ever seen, which is why we did a full-blown episode on his case a year or so ago, because it's relevant. It's relevant. And again, right now, we the people fear the government. Okay, that's the situation we're in right now. We the people fear the government. And there's good reason for that. There's reason to fear the government right now. It has been weaponized. Okay, it has been weaponized. If you haven't seen the documentary Capital Punishment, I'm going to do a compilation on some of that coming up shortly. But if you haven't seen the documentary Capital Punishment, look it up. It was a privately made documentary that goes in and talks to the actual families that had their houses raided by the FBI with SWAT teams, battering ram tanks, turrets, the whole nine, to arrest a man, his wife, and a child. All right, so it has been weaponized. And there are multiple cases of that, by the way. Multiple cases of that. So it has been weaponized. And the fact of the matter is, it's important for all of us to understand that, all right, it's been weaponized. What do we do? Right? Not I'm angry, not I'm pissed off that it's been weaponized. It's what do we do? And what we do is we call a convention. Because instead of the people fearing the government, all right, because what was the saying, right? I believe it was Jefferson, right? When people fear the government, it's tyranny. When the government fears the people, it's liberty. The government will forever be looking over its shoulder at what this crazed political army of constitutionalists and defenders of our nation, this rabid group who is absolutely active and will absolutely take action at a moment's notice if they try to overreach again. You can bet that a lot of the stuff that we deal with today, a lot of the things that we see today will be gone, will end. Okay? Period. And this is what got under my skin. I was almost over the whole thing, just saying, whatever, it is what it is. Got to get used to it. So be it. And then I went ahead and friggin' tried to upload that video to Facebook, and then Facebook dinged us. And I'm like, oh, enough is enough. Enough is enough. Now, to Facebook's credit, there's no strike on our account or anything like that. Somehow their algorithm actually watched it. And I think because Dr. Simone was in it, and she was the doctor from America's first, what is it, America's, I always get this freaking Frontline Doctors, America's Frontline Doctors. And I think they have a recording of that speech that they initially gave, if you remember. Those are the folks that were coming out saying, we can treat this thing, that, they're 1,000, whatever. And I think they have a recording of that. And like, if you put it in one of your videos, it like triggers that thing in the algorithm and then stops it, because they did it immediately. They did it before I even posted it. So like, but in the end, again, you can see that entire video at Rumble. And for anyone who got on late, please make sure you go to rumble.com/c/Patriot Think Tank. And you'll find our channel there. It's a mirror image of YouTube. But if they try to do this to us again, please just know, we're not going to suddenly just stop making videos. Like, we're not going to do that. So if you see us go dark, and I realize we may not be at the top of everybody's, at everybody's mind, but if a month goes by and you're like, I never got another alert for Patriot Think Tank. I wonder what happened to those guys. Is PTT still around? I don't even know. If that's the case, that's when you move over to Rumble and just check it out. Just see if there's new content coming up, because I guarantee you, if you go to Rumble at that point and you weren't seeing anything on these other platforms, you're going to see us saying, "Hey, thanks for coming over. You found us. We got banned again," because we're getting banned for the most trivial BS. One of the strikes we got last year, literally, was just Rand Paul, a U.S. senator. We just let him speak. Many of you may have seen the video that he put out. Then, if you remember, Rand Paul kind of went on a rant about Fauci and like put out this video where he was doing this soliloquy and just killing Fauci. And like Jack and I saw it, and we were like, oh, we should just post this. We don't have to say anything. And we did. We posted it, thinking it's a U.S. senator with a medical background, no less, like it speaking on medics. So we're thinking this, not a thought in our mind came through that this would be something that would get our channel struck and knocked out for 7 days. But lo and behold, next day, ping, gone. Video went nuts on Facebook. All right. But they actually struck us for reposting a video of a U.S. senator. We didn't opine on it. We didn't say anything about it. We were just like, we're going to leave this right here and just help him get this distributed, because we felt that it was going to get shadow banned, and it did. And Rav TV here on YouTube saying our side is disorganized, no funding, too scared. We're not disorganized, Rav. Look. I get that we're not as organized as the Marxists, right? Like, we don't have a WEF, and that's that level of 90 countries and all that. But we don't need 90 countries. We don't need 90 countries, because without us, the rest of them are gonna be free. All right, without us, it's gonna be, or at least it'll be a lot easier for the rest of them to be free. If we fall, then it's a wrap. Save the United States, save the world. We have a large international following just for that point. Because they understand that as well, right? A lot of them are on just because they're interested in seeing the content on the Great Reset and the different updates and different players in that game. But a lot of them are on, and I have this discourse with them in messaging where, they're saying, like, we understand. Like, we know that, it's one thing, like, even if we fall, And it could be Australia, it could be the UK, whatever. But the point that they're making is, even if we fall, it doesn't mean it's all over. If you fall, it's all over. And so when they hear something like Article 5, even though it's not their constitution, when they hear that the American people actually have a path to put this stuff to bed, to secure our rights in stone, right? To remove any ambiguity that a court may misconstrue to take our rights, as they have so often over the last century. When they hear that we have that kind of a weapon, they get excited. They get excited, and they're in the stands and they're cheering. Believe you me, they're cheering. Okay? Because frankly speaking, we ended a lot of videos like this in the past with Yuri Bezmenov basically saying, unlike me, there'll be nowhere to defect to. Where he left the USSR, he was able to defect to the United States. If we fall, there's nowhere to defect to. There's nowhere. We're the last bastion of hope. We are that shining city on a hill. We're it. And frankly, we always have been. But these animals, these sociopaths, have been coming at us from all these directions, from our education system to everything, that it's insane. How are you, Sheila? Good to see you on. Don't mind me. I'm getting a little hot in the head here. Getting a little upset about this whole YouTube banning and the shadow banning and whatnot, and the fact that I am 100% in my own mind. And I want to see these whistleblowers come out, but I'm 100% convinced in my own mind that it is the government 100% driving the censorship of social media. I find it ridiculous to think otherwise. The idea that they're so in unison in their messaging, they're so in unison. Why would Google care if someone had an open conversation about election fraud? Why would they care? Why would Facebook care if someone had an open conversation about COVID-19? Why would a CEO of a network like that care? They don't care, is the answer. They don't care. There's no mission statement there. There's no mission statement. They're just doing what they're told. And frankly, they're probably just as frustrated as everybody else. And the reality, and I'm not trying to make them into good guys here, but I do want to make sure that I highlight who the serious bad guy is. Because this is it. This is it. This is why convention of states matters. Again, even if this doesn't fall under the specific, and it's not about the private companies, convention of states will never touch a private company, will never do anything like that. All right, ever. But it's this, the reason things like this happen is because the government has absolutely no fear of the people. None. And what convention of states does, even if this doesn't fit in the three categories of term limits, fiscal restraints, and government overreach that are currently on the ballot, although I would argue there's ways to protect us in the government overreach category, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Even if it doesn't cover in any of them, the mere fact of passing a convention of states and still having that united front of grassroots voters who got the first convention called still in play and continually active will forever have the federal government looking over its shoulder. And things like this, where they're crossing lines into First Amendment territory, because you can say these are private companies, but not when the government gets involved. Not when the government tells the election board in Massachusetts, you've got a hotline to our team to get things scrubbed off the internet. That crosses a line. That crosses a line. Now, if Twitter wants to just say, "Hey, we don't want to hear anything," Twitter could say, "We officially are getting rid of," and just publicly announce it, "We're getting rid of all conservative speech." They can say that. But they can't say that. But if an email pops up showing a government official ordered them to say that, well, then that would be something quite different. That would be something quite different. And I can tell you that if there's a grassroots army of folks out there who are smashing and have just called a convention and got amendments passed, doesn't matter which ones get ratified. But if we go ahead and get that passed, just the mere presence that's out there will have the government forever looking over its shoulder as to what the people are going to do next. Period. And all the experts and all of these doo-doo-doos who are educated in these posh schools with these Marxist professors will not be running our country anymore. Which, if I'm not mistaken, is the end goal. Is it not? Is it not the end goal? This is where our focus needs to be. This is it. This is the only thing that really matters right now on the political front. And most of our people don't even know what it is or how it works or what to do. And that's why we're here. That's why Convention of States Action is there. That's why the 5 million plus grassroots who are already engaged are there. 19 states have already called for this. We need 34. That's 2/3. If you're in a state, you can find out which state is which on our website. We've listed off, we've linked the resolution for each state, given a quick synopsis as to where they are. Okay, you can get more information from conventionofstates.com, sign the petition. You could do that from our website as well. All right, but that's how you get active. Someone's going to call you. And when they call you, don't sit there and start thinking to yourself, oh man, I have to do something. You could do something or they will. Okay? Either you do something or they will. But something's going to get done. Okay? The question is what? And is it going to be something that's in favor of our country, or is it going to be something that allows us to talk 100 years from now about the legend of what America used to be? You know, if you haven't seen Ronald Reagan's speech on A Time for Choosing, it's one of the greatest speeches ever delivered. He wasn't president yet. He was speaking on the Goldwater campaign, but he makes a comment. He makes a lot of great comments in that speech, but he makes one towards the end where it's like, you know, we have a rendezvous with destiny. We can choose to do the right thing now, or we can sentence our kids to 1,000 years of darkness. We literally are on the precipice of that time right now. Okay? And they've even put a year on it. Okay? Like the UN has even given you the year of 2030 with the 2030 agenda. They're telling you. They're not just, there's no longer in the 90s where people are like, oh my God, WEF, they're having these creepy conversations. These people want to take over the world. Like, we're not there now. Now we're post 2020 where the WEF, excuse me, the WEF is now coming out publicly and just straight telling you that not only do we don't want to take over the world, what they're telling you is we're taking it over. So you can all talk your news stories about what's going on in the Netherlands and how messed up it is and you know, and whatever, but in the end, it doesn't matter. To them, it doesn't matter. And Raf says Facebook and Twitter are not privately owned. No, they're publicly owned, but they're not government entities. So, and that's the point. It's the private sector. So it's a publicly owned traded company, but it's the private sector. So, and the private sector can do whatever they want. So that was the point that was being made there. It's not a matter of whether they're traded or privately owned. It's just a matter of government entity. Once a government entity gets involved, if those companies take instruction from a government official to silence anyone for anything, I don't care what you're saying. I don't care if someone is up there yelling and calling white people cracker and using the N-word and do every nasty thing you could think of. Doesn't matter. If the government calls them and says you need to take this down and they do, it's a violation of the First Amendment. If they themselves say, whoa, this is crazy, we need to take this down, that's not a violation of the First Amendment. It's pretty cut and dry. So, but in the end, you know, look, what do we got here? So Sheila says, Cause New Jersey in the house. Yep, welcome New Jersey. New Jersey's definitely representing. So our team is out doing our team is out doing the events, spreading the cause word and getting people involved because we're not political. We're about we the people decide. Absolutely. And that's a common phrase for those that don't know the cause movement. It's the big question, right? The big question is who decides, right? And the reality of the matter is, and the way this nation was formed, it's we the people decide. right? We the people decide. And that's what the whole movement is about. I could care less about Republican, Democrat, whatever. I could care less. I don't care that I literally am at a point right now where I could care less about almost any of this stuff. And when I say I could care less, it doesn't mean I don't see a tragedy for being a tragedy, or I don't see an issue for being an issue. It's just, in the end, look, as someone who has spent a long time in my life in leadership, I can't just look at a problem. I get tired of listening to problems. I get tired of it. If there are no solutions, I don't want to hear the problem. If no one has stopped to think, even a suggestion, maybe your solution's not great, but if at least you need to come with a solution. And if your solution is, Second Amendment, we're just going to get our guns and blah, blah, stop it, because we're not there yet. Okay, we're not there. We're not under martial law. No one, like, we're just not there yet. There's still a perfectly peaceful, legal, constitutional way to correct 80% of the crap that is going on in this world, 100% of the stuff that makes you say WTF, 100% of the really crazy stuff that you like, the education, the stuff they're teaching kids, and all these different things, all of those things. There's absolutely 100% of that will be gone. The whole Marxist era will be collapsed. It'll be left to the history books, which we will now be writing again. And we can put back in the normal history without having to, deal with these doo-doo-doos. So I'm seeing some comments coming up where, here we go. All right. So there's a little delay. I had YouTube open to the right of me, and I saw a comment come up, but I didn't see one come up in my multi-stream chat. So I wanted to check that out. But so this was, people need to realize the Convention of States is the long game. Yes, great point. But we must stay in the site and continue reaching out to our legislators and pushing this resolution through state by state. Absolutely. And also, once it does get pushed through, once we get, we've got 19 states now. Once we get the balance and we get to 34 or even more, all right, two things need to happen. Number one, we can't balk when we get to 33 and let Congress come up with some flaky legislation to try and stop this thing. All right, that's one thing. The second thing is, after we get to 34, it doesn't stop there. It just starts there. Okay, we need to be engaged with our local representatives as to who these commissioners are going to be. Right? Who are we selecting as these commissioners? Who are the choices? Who wants to do it? And who do we want to do it? And we need to be fully engaged in that entire process. Furthermore, even after the commissioners are selected and we get everybody we want to head out and represent our state, we're still not done. Because they're going to come back with proposals. And we need to make sure that those proposals are written properly, that they don't leave room for madness, that they're legit. And then and the ones that are fully legit, like repealing the 16th Amendment, God bless, if that comes out of it, then we need to make sure that those get ratified. So we're in this for the entire process. This is not just 34. Let's get to 34. It's the whole long game. And it's important to say that. And thank you, Sheila, for bringing up the long game, because that's very true. That's very true. You know how we got to where we are today? You know how we got here? You know how we got to a place where we have generations, not generation, but generations of people who think men can have babies? That we have child pornography in our school libraries for middle schools? How did we get to this? How did we come to this place? That we have cities, whole cities being taken siege by animals? How did we get to this place? How did things fall apart so bad that we got to this place where we just look around and you're just like, what the hell is going on? It's almost like you're waiting for someone to say, haha, just kidding, and everything to go back to normal. Heck, we have generations now who don't even know what normal is. They don't even know what it's like to have like a society that's not hyper-focused on race and hyper-focused on all of this stuff, like that just hung out and chilled. They don't even know what that's like. They don't even know. They have no frame of reference to like look back at that. Whereas like we can look at the 80s and 90s and be like, well, the 80s and 90s are pretty cool. Like I remember, heck, I went on a double date with a gay couple in the mid 90s. And we didn't think anything of it. I didn't want a cookie. I wasn't trying to post to some feed saying, "Hey, look at me." Like this was a friend, and they wanted. He was meeting a new guy, and he wanted to have friends with him when he went out, and so we went with him. Me and my girlfriend went with him. I didn't need any social approval to do that. I didn't need an attaboy from somebody any more than I would have needed it from someone for something else. This is the way the world used to be. This is the way the world used to be. And now here we are. Now here we are in this place, in this disgusting place. And how did we get here? We got here because Marxists played the long game. That's how. Because while we were sleeping at the switch, while we were rah-rah America in the 80s, and we were, hey, this will never happen in the 90s, and 2000 came, and mind you, this goes back, this started, all right, at least the organized portion of it started in the mid to late 50s. All right, the hippies were the first ones. And we all thought, oh, look at this generation. We're sleepwalking. Look at this generation. They're so crazy. They're so radical. They're just changing everything. Well, like no one ever, and there were people, it's not like nobody was telling you. It's not like nobody was telling people in the 70s that these people from the 60s were groomed. That entire thought process was a groomed thought process. There were people screaming it from the highest mountain. Nobody wanted to listen. Okay, and I ain't going to lie, in the 80s, okay, that's when my coming of age came. And in the 80s, late 80s, people telling this to me, I ain't believing any of this. Come on. We got Reagan. He just won 50 states almost. What, are you kidding me? Get out of here. You're crazy. And they went on. And they went on. And again, they're playing the long game. And slowly but surely, it's getting more and more. Slowly but surely, they fell apart a little bit in the 90s with the fall of the Soviets, but it wasn't over because it really wasn't about the Soviets. It was about this globalist movement in general. And the Chinese and the WEF and everybody else just picked up that narrative and ran with it. And then decades later, now we're sitting here wondering what the hell happened, as if one generation made this happen. No, they played the long game. And frankly, so are we. This movement started in 2013. It did not just start. This is not like, oh, look at what Biden's doing. Let's start a convention of states movement. No. This began in 2013, and it will continue until it's done. All right? It's not a simple process. This is not an easy process. But I will say this, people better look at cause action and be freaking grateful that they were on this when they were. Because in the end, if we were just starting this now, we might have 4 states. That's what we got this year, right? 4 states this year alone, okay? We would not be at 19. I can tell you that. We would not be at 19. When you listen to these state legislators talk, they don't know the Constitution. Okay. And as much as that might piss people off that our state legislators don't know the Constitution, the reality of the matter is they were brought up in the same civics deficient society that we were. And these are regular folks. So, like, if you decided to run for an office and you won, if I suddenly sat you down and started quizzing you on the Constitution, you'd probably fail too. So let's not hate on them for that. However, we do need to get them educated. And that's a big part of what we're trying to accomplish. That's a big part of what Convention of States Action is doing. All right. I watch these different legislative forums where they debate these issues. And I listen to this. There's only one argument against it, and it makes no sense. I've done multiple videos destroying this argument. If you're not sure what it is, it's a runaway convention. They're going to tell you everything's going to go crazy and that the delegates and commissioners take on mystical powers once they're selected and will take over the world. All right. It's just nonsense. But in the end, if you don't know any better, if you haven't read Madison's notes, if you haven't talked to actual historians, not the dootadoos that are posing as historians today, talking about 1619 Project and all that nonsense, but actual historians who will break down, constitutional historians who will break down what it is. People like Rob Natelson. It's a good read, The Law of Article 5, great read. okay, breaks down the legality of it, the process, how it works, etc. But these legislators don't know that. And time and time again, when a state that has voted it down 4 years, 5 years in a row finally passes it, the one thing you hear on the floor more than anything was, I was against this before I was for this. I had to read my way into being for this. I had to read my way. I had to research my way into being for this. Why? Because there are all kinds of people pumping all kinds of garbage into people's ears, and if you don't know any better, you believe it. And it's nonsense. As if the entire Constitution was written, brilliant document, most brilliant political document perhaps ever written, except for this one sentence at the they went nuts for that one sentence. My goodness, how could they do that? How could they let the states propose amendments? It's just stupid, and it just drives me nuts. It's my here we got another comment. My granddaughter is 5 years old. She'll never know the America that I grew up in, but I will fight with everything I have to make sure she at least has the freedom. Yeah, and there's some elements of the America we grew up in, that just changes with time, right? So, but I just had this debate with a family member where like, the world was a better place when kids could come home when the streetlights turned on, right? The world was a better place before play dates, right? The world was there's so many things you could point to that the world was a better place before social media. The world was a better place before tech, before this type of tech, right? The world was just a better place. Yeah, you had to follow a map, and you had to call someone. You couldn't just text them. Yeah, you had, you weren't keeping up on everyone's life in social media, and you were still watching the nightly news. Yeah, those things existed, but you know what? The world was a better place. People were nicer. People were cooler. People got along 10 times more. All the drama that literally has been created, okay? Like the natural progression of what should have been, of what should have happened after the civil rights movement was taking place. It was beginning to take place and settle in, and then the globalists got hold of it. And instead of using the jobs, the working class as the system that they were going to divide by, as they did in all the communist countries, with us, they chose race. Because you can't choose race in Russia because they're all Russian. You can't choose race in Venezuela because they're all Venezuelan. You can't choose race in Cuba because they're all Cuban. And you can't choose working class here because there's too much mobility in the class system. You brainwash a guy today in the working class, and now he made some moves, and the next thing you know, you go back to check him out and get him to throw that fist in the air, and he's like, I don't know about that. I just got a raise, moved on to a new company, doing good, just bought a new house, moving up. You guys can keep that. And they got to start from scratch again. That's a problem. So they went to race. And they've been successful with it. They've been immensely successful with it. So from YouTube, we got Lost WB. Please volunteer. Don't sit back and watch. Yeah, exactly. We need everyone to help to get this convention called. Be part of the solution. Don't be part of the problem. And please, I want to make sure people understand, if you choose to do absolutely nothing, all right, and I mean nothing, like you just want to, jump on a broadcast or, leave a comment or, go get them, and that's it, you're done. Like, go get them doesn't cut it. All right. Like when the Marxists, like when you look at how dedicated the Marxists are, okay, like they've brainwashed people to the point. Now, true, we're not brainwashed, but at the same time, they've brainwashed these generations to the point where they're willing to go out and literally commit crimes. Like they're willing to go out and just go absolutely ape crap on society to try and take down the United States. So us trying to fight that with a, go get them, that's not going to cut it. Now, you got a life. Look, everybody's got different situations, right? Everybody's got different situations. Maybe your contribution, because really right now, the biggest thing that we need is spreading the word. That's the biggest thing that we need. Because frankly, no one even knows. Like our citizenry does not even know the power that we wield in our own from our own conscience, we don't even know. Like the biggest, I could tell you, I've been barking about this for over a year now, and I can tell you, or a year and a half, and I can tell you 100% that for every 10 people you talk to, one might know what the process of convention of states is and how it can impact our country and the difference that it can make. Understand that this is so big, okay? So understand how frustrating this is, because if you're watching this and you don't understand, right? It's fine if you don't understand, okay? I considered myself to be, awesome in history. My kids always look to me for history, especially American history. I'm like that guy, right? And I didn't know. A year and a half ago, I didn't know. So it's not get embarrassed, then get over it, and then start making a difference. Like, that's the key, right? Just deal with your humility, right? Eat your humble pie. Be like, oh, I didn't know this. That sucks. Wow, good thing I learned this. Let me make a difference. Let's get this done. That's where we need to be. Mentally, that's where we need to be. Not listening to these doo-doo-doos about, we got to make sure that this is diversity and equity and this and that. Unity. That's all that matters, is unity. Okay? The diversity, the way that it's being sold, all right, in our education system is divisive. It's designed to be divisive. It's designed to divide humanity. That's the point of it, to keep everybody in a box. And then whenever something goes wrong, upstairs, they just shake a box, and now everyone forgets what's going on up there, right? Some big email dump comes out. All this dirty information comes out. Oh, yeah, the public knows about it? It leaked? All right, hold on. Let's shake the white box. Let's shake the black box. Let's shake the Asian box. Let's just shake up all these boxes. They don't know who's shaking it, so they're going to get mad at each other. And while they're fighting, this will blow over, and then we'll be done. And that's the way this game has been played. But these issues for convention of states, we all agree. We all agree. If ever there were a time to focus on what we agree on, it's now. Who doesn't agree with term limits for all federal officials? Not just elected. I'm talking the deep state dude. I'm talking that dude in the black suit with the sunglasses, with the little thing in his ear, who shows up with the black budget every year that the senators can't even read and they sign off on anyway. Talk about that guy. I'm talking about the creepy dude who's at Area 51, ready to shoot anybody who comes near the premises. I don't know what the hell's in Area 51. I know there's a creepy guy there, though, ready to shoot people that come on the premises. I know that. I don't know if it's aliens or spy tech or whatever the hell. I just know if you walk in there, you're getting shot. That's what I know. Like, that guy needs to go. Like, this era of the people are too stupid to handle is enough. I'm done with it now. I'm done with it now. So in the end, look, my intention really was to come on here, and basically just voice that frustration with this, what I believe is government-led censorship. All right. And no, we can't prove it. So there for you guys, for all you 20-year-old doo-doo-doos and all these tech companies, I didn't say it's a definite fact. This is my opinion, which I'm allowed to leave. And the fact of the matter is, with enough whistleblowers, I think we will figure this out. But in the end, until those whistleblowers come, because I'm sure it's a scary proposition, we're going to have to continue to play this game, which is why, once again, before I let anyone go, I want to make sure that anyone on here heads over to Rumble and subscribes to our channel there. Because if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, and really not just our channel, you really should, especially if you're on YouTube, you should really look at the channels that you subscribe to and see if they have, because most of them, I think you're going to find, have another channel on Rumble. And they do that for the same reason we do, is that you never know when some fickle teenager in big tech is going to dump you over some random video with no explanation, just a list of the policy you violated, and make you fish through an hour and a half long video and figure out what the hell statement it was that triggered these people. Right? So, because they don't tell you. They don't tell you. They just tell you violated. So do justice for us and do justice for all those other channels out there. Subscribe to the Rumble channel too. Get familiar with Rumble, because honestly, one day we might just disappear. I don't know why, but one day we might just disappear. And if that happens, look, it might be worth checking to see if this video is around, an hour or two after it comes out. But in the end, look, I want to bring this back to the solution, which really is what it's all about. And that's that we need to start playing offense. And not knowing is not an excuse anymore. It's not an excuse anymore. You can't, there's no way that you're not hearing this from more people than me. All right. And if you're not hearing this from more people than me, then you need to subscribe and click that bell. All right. But chances are you're hearing this from other sources as well. And if you keep dismissing things as if they're not really happening, or just pretending like a 5-year-old that we could just put our hands on our eyes and nobody can see us, that's not going to be a solution. Because what's going to happen is when you take your hands off your eyes, you're going to be looking at a completely different world, because these people are not slowing down. They are not slowing down. If you think what happened in the Netherlands and now in Canada, and if you don't know what that is with the farming, look it up. Okay, that's not an accident. It's not an accident that the WEF had food innovation hubs already created before forcing half the farming in the Netherlands, one of the world's largest agriculture countries, before forcing it 50% of their farming to shut down, which is exactly what's going to happen. You don't sit there and wait until there's an actual food issue. Like, we're not going to, we'll be able to overcome here. We're just going to pay a lot more. But literally, countries that are struggling to eat now are going to be suffering deaths on a massive scale. This is coming. This is happening now. It's you have to understand what the ramifications of something like telling the Netherlands you're no longer allowed to use nitrate fertilizer. You have to understand the epic ramifications of that, because they are epic. And now Canada has done the same thing, or they're on the verge of doing the same thing if they haven't implemented it already. We cannot, when this happens, look, don't be one of those people from Nazi Germany who now, if you saw that documentary, I think it was called The Final Account, where all the children and young people of Nazi Germany are all about to die now. So they went around and found them and started talking to them. And what did you hear from so many of them? I didn't know. I didn't know it was happening. I didn't know. Until another one of them get in their face and be like, yes, you knew. We all knew. Don't be that person. Just know in advance. I'm preempting your I didn't know. I'm preempting it right now. Because when it comes time to call this convention, I didn't know is not an acceptable answer. You should be out looking for solutions anyway, even if I'm not telling you this. The beauty is you found me, and now you know the solution. Now all you have to do is act on it. And when you go and you click the link, all right, it's right on our website, thepatriotthinktank.com/cause. You'll see a link to sign the petition. Click it. You register with them. They'll give you a full set of educational videos on the topic. They'll call you. Someone local, someone in your neighborhood will call you, okay, and tell you what you can do to help take action to take your country back. Because it matters. It matters. And it's important that everybody knows that. And it's important that everybody knows this is not just some other little thing. This is something that 250 years from now, children are going to be reading in history books as the time the American people took over. And Marxism will be gone. And I'm sure at some point, after a century or so, people will have forgotten. They will start to work their way back in again, and we'll be right back at it again. But the fact of the matter is, once this process is done, we will have forever, for the rest of American history and rest of America's future, we will have that grassroots army that's able to take people out, that's able to step up and go, what? What'd you do, federal government? I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure that sounded like you weren't paying any attention to what we said. Okay, let's start the process. That's the way the country will be run. With servants in the federal government. Public servants, like they're supposed to be. Not this elite nonsense with lifer politicians who have figured out how to win small districts and just stay in power forever. Those days are coming to a close. So those people most of them are on their last leg anyway. So I don't even know if they'll even be around when some of them, some of them are in their mid 90s or high 80s, but whatever. Whether that's the case or not, they're getting removed because this is going through. And it's going through because we're on it. But it's not me. Okay, I could sit here and bark all day. But in the end, you need to sign that petition. You need to know what's going on in your state. Because there is no more powerful entity in this country than the combination of our state legislatures. None. Not the president, not the president, not Congress, not the Supreme Court, none of them. When our state legislators get together, when our state legislatures get together, that is by far the most powerful entity in this country, which is why amending the Constitution's responsibility, which is an immense responsibility, was left strictly to them, not to governors, not to presidents, not to courts, not to Congress. And it was left to them because they are the closest to the people. You can drive down and meet your local representative, your local state senator, your local state house representative. You can go and meet those people. You can write to them. You can talk to them. All right, you'll get responses. Why? Because they're local. 200-300 people showing up at a state representative's door is a big freaking deal. Okay? That's a big that can swing an election. Just to put it in perspective. So Sheila says, now I'm done yelling. I got veins popping out of my head. So Sheila says, we're going to party like it's 1776. Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a whole new era of independence. And this time it'll come with all the trimmings of the hard work that has been fought and the corrections that have been made, over the course of those centuries. So, it'll be a whole new, it'll be a whole new avenue. So it says local legislators. I don't know. I thought that's what I said. Did I not say local legislators? I'm pretty sure that's what I said. But please sign the petition. Get involved. Even if you only have 20 minutes a week, you can make a difference. Yeah, exactly. Look, there's a whole category for social media warrior, which just means you need to educate yourself, which you should do anyway. And then get out there and get the message out. We have a group, by the way. I never talk about it. I don't know why. It keeps growing though, exponentially. But we're up to 450 members now or something like that. And I've never said a word about it. But there is a Patriot think tank, the Patriot think tank group. It's wide open. I don't moderate it. I just let it, if Facebook warns me about it, I let it pop off, and if they hold something, I re-release it. It's a totally free speech group. But we do have a group where we can, invite people to and kind of keep that, keep those posts moving, on updates for cause and things like that are going on. We got to get together, folks. We're all in the same gang. And that includes Democrats. Okay. Understand, if you're new to this channel, all right, I don't hate Democrats. All right. I see this as, I don't agree with Democrats now, but as far as hating them, I don't hate them. I hate Marxists. There's a difference. Not all Democrats are Marxists, just because all Marxists are aligned with Democrats. So I do handpick the actual Americans out of the Marxist bunch. All right. And it doesn't matter to me what their positions are on various issues. I don't care. Because that's their freedom to do. Okay, I'm pro-life. If you're pro-America, but you're pro-choice, I'm stopping at the pro-America piece right now. I'm not having that debate with you. I'm not having that debate because right now, that issue is where it is, and so are many other unions and all these other issues that divide traditional Democrats and Republicans. I'm not concerned about any of that. I could disagree with you on just about everything across the political platform. If we agree that the Constitution is 100% legit and needs to be preserved and that our freedoms are inherent and given to us by our Creator, I don't even care if you believe in God. I don't even care. If you understand that our rights are given to us by our creator, and your creator is not the same as mine, I can live with that. What I can't live with are Marxists. It's just that's not, being a Marxist is not, oh, it's American to have your own opinions. No. The very nature of Marxism is anti-American. Period. Period. And then once we solidify this freedom, then we'll try and convert you to whatever religion and whatever. But we'll do it as free people. You will be free to say no. Right? And this is the way the country was designed to work. Right? And this is, if you're out there and you think, oh, this movement's all Christian. It's not all Christian. Right? Everyone is welcome in this movement. Everyone. When I say everyone, I mean everyone. The only qualification that you need to be a part of this movement is love of country. That's it. Like in my head, I feel like first-generation immigrants are like the biggest allies we have right now. Because frankly, they know more about this country than most of our citizens do after having taken the test. And that's real talk. That's real talk. I've said this forever, and I'm right. I know I'm right. So here's Robert says the government wants us fighting over the little things to distract. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole point, is that these boxes they create. It's these boxes they create where they just want to stir up a box. Whenever something big happens, they just shake a box and everyone gets mad. If you haven't heard the analogy, the story of the red ants and the black ants, they were all put in a jar and they're all just moving around, doing whatever, not fighting. But then someone comes and shakes the jar. Well, they all thought it was each other, so they all started fighting and killing each other. That's exactly what they don't know, that it was an outside force that shook the jar. And that's exactly the analogy of the world that we're living in right now. Sheila says, yes, pro-life. Yeah, absolutely. I'm pro-life 100% as well. The point that I was making was just, that's not an issue that should separate us as Americans. You can make that separate you as a lot of different things. But like in the end, look, I think I see, I don't want to go down the abortion rabbit hole right now, but in the end, I see it as murder. So I can't reconcile it in any way because I see it as murder. So in the end, if you don't see it as murder and you're doing the clump of cells thing and whatever, okay, that's not an argument my point is, that's not an argument that I'm trying to take up right now. Like right now, you're free to have that opinion. All right. And as am I to believe that it's murder. So it is what it is. But my point of the matter is, I don't want people looking at this as like, well, because I disagree with conservatives, that I can't be a part of this movement. Nonsense. Do you agree with term limits? Do you agree with fiscal restraints on the federal government? Are you okay with the $36 trillion debt? Are you okay with the government overreach that's just taken place over the last 2 or 3 years? Like, no, you're not. And those are the only issues at hand right now. Those are the only issues at hand. No one's trying. Abortion is not on the table in this cause. So it's not that's my point, is that I'm not trying to go down those rabbit holes, because in the end, that person who is in full alignment on everything Constitution is very important, because there are millions of them. And that matters. That matters. Just because someone might be pro-union, I can't stand public sector unions. The damage that they do to our children in these schools is reprehensible. It's inconceivable. But I'm not trying to have that fight right now. Like the fact of the matter is, we'll deal with the education system through government overreach. We'll shut down the Department of Education. We'll take other steps to get the federal government out of our education. I'm not into the union fight right now. And that's the point that I'm making, is that it's more so for me about just the movement. It's more so for me about, I'm able to detach my personal feelings to find things in common. And if the Constitution is what we're finding in common, if we find term limits, if we find term limits for all officials, if we find fiscal restraints, and we find government overreach in common, then we're in. Like, it's time to focus on what we agree on. That's the point that I'm making. So Mern says, "Hey George, and Think Tank team. Yep, Mom, Mern, what's up, Mern? How are you? Welcome aboard. Glad to see you. I am gone over the hour because I've started ranting and getting crazy, and I'm like dying to just go downstairs because I have to rewatch these all the time and trim them and do all this stuff. So usually I'll do that over an adult beverage, which I'm kind of looking forward to right now. But I think that I've done enough to make the point. But just make sure, look, we'll wrap this up. Go check out our video on Rumble. So I can't, I gave the teaser in the beginning of the intro here, but I had to stop it where I thought they were gonna, because they told me I was violating the health COVID policy of whatever, blah blah, whatever. I don't know what it was, but in the end, I figured it was COVID related. So once it got to the COVID part, I let the government cut into the intro and do their thing. So check out the full video, though. It is a cool video. Share that video far and wide because it is on Rumble. So it's rough distribution on Rumble. So I'm kind of counting on my YouTube and my Facebook folks to help with that and try and get that, shared out to different platforms. It looks like Facebook is okay with the link from Rumble being sent out. I just they're not going to let me put it on their platform inherently. So if you can go ahead and share that, I'd appreciate it. Other than that, let me see if there are any more comments. I do not see any. So everyone, Robert, Mern, Cheryl, Sheila, and I don't know if there was anyone else I missed. There were quite a few of you actually. So thank you for the engagement. I think RJA was another one. Thank you for the engagement, guys. I definitely appreciate it. I came on today kind of last second, didn't really announce that I was doing it and just sort of sprung it on you guys. But today was our first day out of YouTube jail. So I wanted to make it a point to come out and speak. And so I have. And I have now successfully used the YouTube platform to promote Rumble. I'm out.
And like that,